Fans of the original movies are not going to accept Rey starting the new Jedi Order instead of Luke. I've already said my piece about this. When this movie was announced, specifically at the Star Wars Celebration, they revealed a new timeline of events and Star Wars timelines that used to appear in like the books, the Legends books, and you could see the timelines of everything, and they were all marked by a symbol, and they rechanged everything. So now Luke's Jedi Order, the new Jedi Order era, was changed to further down to where Rey is the one who forms the new Jedi Order. And when I saw that, I was just so incensed. That, along with what they were producing on the TV side of things with Ahsoka and all of those shows around the time of the New Republic era, which is the timeline of Han, Luke, and Leia. This is their time that you're telling all these stories with Thrawn too. When Thrawn was appearing and he's going head to head with Ahsoka, a Clone Wars era character, in a time where Han, Luke, and Leia are there and in their prime when it comes to their characters, they're just pushed to the side. It is so disrespectful to these characters, to the legacy of George Lucas, to the fans. It wasn't enough for Han, Luke, and Leia to die in front of our eyes on screen throughout the sequel trilogy. Character assassinated first and then die for some. We also have to see their entire journeys and legacies be erased, be pillaged for other characters, for the new characters. It angers me so much. So that's my point of view when it comes to the Rey movie. I was never excited for it, but they should have known that. They should have known that you never had a strong grasp on the character of Rey. You never knew what to do with her throughout the sequel trilogy, and you want to do it again? You wanted to create another movie, and you still haven't learned your lesson? You still have no idea what you want to do with this character. Or if you do want to know what to do with this character, clearly you can't find someone competent enough or talented enough to want to do that. So that was the movie that was said to be first. And all of the movies that they announced, the rumor was the priority was Rey's movie. So there are other movies that they have in some sort of stage of early development with the James Mangold Dawn of the Jedi movie and whatever Dave Filoni, whatever he wants. And there's also other creators that have been attached to Lucasfilm for films. And some of them I didn't even know. Like Sean Levy is attached to do a Star Wars movie. And I had no idea. He was doing press for Deadpool and Wolverine and said he was working on a Star Wars movie. And I was like, that's news to me. I didn't know that one existed. Taika Waititi. Wasn't Kevin Feige also somewhat attached at some point to do one? And Patty Jenkins, her movie. It's amazing how many projects have been announced that have just never seen the light of day. Rian Johnson's trilogy, that never materialized. Thank goodness for that. So the answer is yes, Disney is bad at Star Wars. The most important medium for this IP is films. This is where this IP was born. This is where it thrives. And you can't get that right. Solo lost money, and it also introduced concepts that they never picked up on when it comes to Darth Maul. That was kind of weird that they threw in there. Rogue One, I'd say, was just the most like objectively good, but even then it suffers from the creative differences behind the scenes and the change in directors. And I think every film, every sequel trilogy film has had massive reshoots. In particular, the last one, Rise of Skywalker, they still had no clue what to do. J.J. Abrams was picking back up the baton from where Rian Johnson left him. He just blew up his stories, his story threads, blew that up, threw them in the trash, and he had to pick up what was left. The new trilogy is just all over the place. Crazy how bad they screwed up Star Wars. Yes, it's honestly, I don't know how it's gotten to this point. Gutted they did not follow the Finn Jedi arc. That would have been a good direction. Yes, exactly. And the actor has since come out after his run, after the films were done, and he's since come out and said that they straight up just didn't know what to do with him. He felt very much pushed aside, which everyone else could see. He was just there to fawn over Rey, and that's not a satisfying character arc. And he probably had the most intriguing character arc if he was like a former, well, it wasn't Stormtrooper, but a former Stormtrooper-esque character turned Jedi. Could have been amazing. That could have been an amazing story arc, and they could have done something really cool with Rey and maybe having this temptation from the dark side and have an air of mystery about her unfold, but they didn't know what to do from the outset at all. It was just, the concept was let's use the legacy characters of the past and try to push them aside to build up the new characters. But we don't want to bother to do the work of writing good stories for our new characters. We're just going to try and recreate the same formula of Star Wars and just throw it out there, see if it works. With the IP of Star Wars, it did work initially, and Force Awakens was successful, and I'd say for the most part entertaining, but man, it falls off a cliff after that. At the end, it already does. End of the Force Awakens is just it's a dumpster fire, but it's just a sign of things to come. I had high hopes for the 50th anniversary of Star Wars in 2027. Now I just want Lucasfilm to stay out of it entirely, other than Andor Season 2. They need to have someone who knows what they're doing. Kathleen Kennedy was such a horrible pick. She is not qualified. She doesn't really know about the universe itself. She's a producer, and she's done a good job producing in the past, but clearly not anymore. She can't even get that side of things done well anymore. Like, isn't that the job of a producer, is to get the right people and to facilitate the logistics of a production and make sure everyone is getting along well creatively and making sure it's a good creative environment? But I haven't seen even her doing her producer stuff, which she was supposed to be good at, but it's just marred by repeated delays and shutdowns and replacements, people having to get replaced, writers, directors, all of it. And it's really hard to have any sense of hope for any future production. They're building on a foundation of sand. No matter what they write in the universe in which the sequel movies are canon, nothing good can come of it. What I was saying before, like, this is an IP that started on film. Disney Lucasfilm's attempt with the sequel trilogy was to start a new EU, but the problem was your film sucked. So because of that foundation of sand was never going to be a good jumping off point. I really think that the culture within Lucasfilm needs to change, and I don't think it's ever going to. But in the meantime, they are really building this reputation of creativity by committee, which is the death of creativity. They just cannot be worked with. It's such a shame how far this IP has fallen, but we'll always have George Lucas era stories. We'll always have that. He submitted 4 scripts that Kathleen Kennedy rejected, like she knows a good story. Exactly. She should never have been in charge of the creative side at all. And even now, again, I question her whether she was ever a good producer, because at least the producer is supposed to get everything going. It's supposed to facilitate filming. It's supposed to get all these creators and writers together for them to make something good. And she hasn't been able to do that for the most part. No, she has not. And it's really embarrassing what has made it through. The Acolyte, I think, being the most embarrassing and the most telling, that they have absolutely no idea what they're doing and that they don't care to. They don't care to just take their time to really honor George Lucas and his legacy and the legacy of all the writers that contributed to the previous Legends expanded EU. There's some amazing stories in there, and they would just as much rather pillage those storylines, effectively stealing from those past creators to just do this garbled mess, like twist it into something new for their new characters to do, and doing it in a way that's haphazard and then ultimately not good. It's really a shame all that's been stolen from the previous EU that has just been twisted beyond belief and repurposed for the new EU. It just shows the creative bankruptcy is just on full display, and they can't even get the commercial side of things right. If you can't even get the commercial side of things right when it comes to your IP, we've also seen this with the failure of the Star Wars Hotel. It's a shining example of what is wrong with Lucasfilm now, is the failure of the Star Wars Hotel and the fact that Galaxy's Edge is not what it should be. It's not the powerhouse theme park experience that it definitely could be. It's really a shame. So you can't even get all sides of this IP right, from a commercial, financial standpoint to the creative standpoint. And ultimately, it is a business at the end of the day, but the creative standpoint is what's going to make it a good business. If you know how to get talented people that love the universe, that are passionate about George Lucas's mythology, that will lead to money. They will come. Your fan base will come. We're just waiting.